This morning we had the speed dates. Now we have the closing lecture by Dikkie Scipio from Kaan Architects. And then this afternoon, here in the Orange Hall, we will have our business fair. So as you can already see, there are lots of companies here who want to talk to you, tell you about what they do. So don't hesitate to come by, ask any questions you want, and just chat to everyone. So yeah, I hope to see you all this afternoon, and enjoy the lecture.
I think she means that it's my turn now. Wait, I have to place all this. Good. Figure out right there. Okay. Are you ready? Yeah, you're very quiet. Good. So my name is Dikkie Scipio. Thank you for inviting me. And the question was to talk about the profession of being an architect and go a little deeper into that. But, you know, if you tell anyone that you're studying an architecture, then you know people immediately react, no? They know what you are, what you do. They are either excited or are a little worried. They know what you are as an architect. You are this creative type, or you're the one that always is busy with buildings, or they're worried that you cannot afford to buy a house later. So what we're dealing here with is that we have these dogs principles. So series 1, episode 1 is the one with the dogs. And the whole point is, what is an architect actually? Do we know that? A few years ago, we noticed this cartoon at the inside of all our toilets doors in the office. And after a little bit of research, we figured out that it was one of our best architects, the best designers that put these on. This is only one, we had several. So why do you do this? Why do you make these posters everywhere? And he told us that he was so frustrated because everyone knew how he had to do his job, who he was. And everyone had a different opinion about that. And so what is it to be an architect? Is it the one that spends your money? It's the one with the weird ideas that you cannot build? Is it the creative one that have these ideas? So we're dealing with the principle of the dog. If you see this word and you have this in mind, all of you have this picture of a dog, right? But I guess that none of you had this picture of a dog in mind. You probably had in mind one of these. So as long as we speak about the principle of a dog, we agree. We can have a really nice conversation. Some of you will go against the dog, and others will love the dog, but it's still about the dog. The moment that we go more specific, we have a complete different conversation. So be aware of that. So what are we? What are architects? Are these persons in black? Or the persons with a weird pair of glasses? Or maybe persons that are constantly involved with buildings and the whole world only exists of buildings? Well, I tell my students that at least the basic principles that you have to know being an architect is the ones that are connected with your senses. So the eye, the ear, touching things, connected with dimensions of space, with materials, lights, and colors. And then specific to, do you know what a door is? A window, a roof, a facade, a floor plan. Okay, in our journey to discover what an architect really is, we have to go to ChatGPT because that's the most recent information nowadays. This is 2 weeks ago, and ChatGPT learns, so maybe in 2 weeks it's a little different. But what strikes us that in the description of what an architect is, it doesn't only say that it designs and plans and overseeing construction sites, but in the core is that you create functional and aesthetical pleasing buildings that meet the needs of the client. So the needs of the clients somehow always appear in the center of our definition of our profession. But is this so? Do we agree? Or, yeah, do you know now what this architect is and how do you define that? Yes. I will tell you a few short stories. The second one is the one with Noah Muro. This is the facade of an embassy we built 20 years ago in Maputo. That's the capital of Mozambique in Africa. But to start with that, this was our plot. And this is a really nice slide. In the top you see how the archetypical embassy or villa was built. You got the plot, you built a wall around it, in the center of the plot you built a villa. Just like that. But our plot was the plot below. So you see this oval and you see this diagonal as a path crossing our plot. There we had to build the embassy. At the end of the diagonal there was this tree, and the tree really pointed a position, some place where people were gathering. So we thought, we do it completely different. We make an embassy with no gate, with no wall, an embassy where people can cross the garden. And we presented it. But wow, the people were furious. Are we crazy? You cannot build an embassy. You cannot build any building with any status that gains any respect without a wall. So municipality, clients, everyone got crazy. And this says Noah Muro, that is the Portuguese for no wall, are you crazy? You don't do that. So we had to build a wall. So, lesson learned. You cannot assume you know. You know, there are a lot about politics, habits, social behavior. You should investigate before you do something, as it changes constantly, and you cannot know at forehand. This research is part of being an architect. Okay, so we thought we'd do it a little different. We make the wall, but we push the building to the edge of the plot. And then we still have a big garden. If we try not to make the wall, maybe it helps, or maybe we have to make the wall. It appears that we had to make the wall. So we started with making just a temporarily flag thing. And then we asked the best designer, what's actually the same guy that put the cartoons on the door, to make a design for the wall. And he said we made an open wall. And at that time, the barcodes came to be introduced in the Netherlands. Nowadays, you don't know anything other than having a barcode on any project, but then it was new. So he took the barcode, made a design of it, made immediately some details, and then it had to be made. And it took a lot of craftsmen and techniques with beautiful joints they made in situ to position the gate. And it was an open gate, and it worked perfectly. So we had this floor plan, we had an open gate, and we thought, okay, let's make a model of it before we build it. And we had a model in the Netherlands, but we visited so often Mozambique, and this guy was making these really nice toys out of cans. So we thought, yeah, we ask him to make the model. But this drawing you just saw, he couldn't read the drawing. That was a difficult thing. So we made a picture of a sketch model and sent it to him. And from that, he made this model. So what happened? The shortage in perspective he took from the photo. So the model that he made was also shortened. So it didn't work. So, lesson learned. He's not the only one that has trouble reading the drawings. You all are educated to do so. Our other professional clients, they know how to read it, but so many people do not. You have to be aware of that. Also, your clients not always are able to read your drawings. This is your tools. These are your tools. Be proud of it, but be always aware that how we communicate with us is not the same way normal people do communicate. So, Series 1, Episode 3, the one with the trainee. After a while, we thought we did a lot of projects now. We want to have the big ones. And we pitched on this project. We see it now renovated. It's delivered only in last September. It is the Museum of Fine Arts in Antwerp. And we thought to go and work at this competition. So half a year we worked with whole of the office to get this done. We presented it, came back in the office, and then one of the people said, oh, we have a problem. The problem was that in 2 days we had to deliver the other competition. The competition for the extension of this building. That is the building for the medical center in Rotterdam. It was originally built by Jan Prouvé, together with a Dutch architect. And Jan Prouvé was a kind of self-made engineer who made the first prefabricated plates for the facades. And he worked together with Arie Hagoort of OD 205. OD stands for Oude Delft, so it's where his office was located. They made this plan. Our clients gave us this triangle, and what they want to do is to have a few buildings that represent parts of the medical education. So we need some surgeon education, some for the midwifery, for family doctors, for nurses. And basically it was this what they requested for us. So we had 2 days, make a plan for that. How do you do that? So we could only think. And together with one trainee, we worked at this plan. And the only thing we did is imagine that students are students. So you can have many different rooms and spaces, but whether you are educated to be a surgeon or you are educated to be a midwife, it doesn't really matter what space you have. a colloquium room is a colloquium room. So if we take all this together, instead of making separate houses, we could solve the problem. And we won the competition. So basically it's placing a roof, making sure that there's daylight, put this in a nice design, and there you go. So, lesson learned. No matter the amount of time you have, start thinking first. And I see this with my students a lot. You have the commission, you have the assignment, and you start, ba-bam, making the computer models. You have to think first. It saves you a lot of time, and you can be more creative. It's part of being an architect. So, episode 4, the one with the games. And this is the program they gave us to place in this education center. And that's wonderful. They even made it in, the dimensions of space. So you knew what the preferences were, you knew the relations. But unless you have a huge wide field, you cannot build this, right? So we have to figure it out. And then we discovered, again, that you have a space that's called project space, team space, concentration space, whatever. A lot of spaces with the same dimensions. So they're basically the same. So we made this board game, and we placed the benches and a table within little borders, and make little pieces out of it. And a plot, just a rectangle, where you could bind all the little components in any configuration that you would like to do. And we gave this to the dean. Hey, go and play with it. We don't mind how you configure it. And each sample, each part stands for a piece of your program. So he played with it a while, then said, okay, bless you, I know and understand how it works. And we placed it within the big courtyard. And here it is. This is how it's looked like. Okay, look at the big bookshelf in the end, and I will tell you a little bit about that. So, and this I want to stress. Architecture is not build program. It's much, much more. And nobody but you will take care of that. You will get endless list of functionalities, endless list of square meters, endless list of connections and whatever. But you have to make the architecture work. And yeah, this is the part of the architect. To know this. Last for this is, here you have this huge cupboard with books. This is only there for one purpose, and that is because this new student education center, nobody had heard of it before. At that time, it didn't exist. So the dean had to get the funds. They had to make us the way possible to build. But he couldn't explain it to his board. So how do you say, okay, invest millions for a concept that's never proven? So we thought about that, and we thought about that, and okay, we can tell again how it should be, but it doesn't make it more solid. So we just said at one moment, hey, it's a library. And then he said, oh, it's a library. Then we make a bookshelf, and everyone was happy and fine. The bookshelf is completely redundant. Everyone had digital documents. But, and then we go to Henry Ford. For those who don't know who that was, Henry Ford was the owner of the Ford company that built the cars and was the first one that had a line up to build the cars. And he specifically had this quote: if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses instead of cars. So, if you ask most clients what they want, they would ask for faster horses. So it is part of being the job to listen first and then think independently. Okay, episode 5, the one with the bump. We won this. And this is a 19th century building. And it was built within the center core, a bump-free space, because they had a lot of experience in 19th century before with wars, with bombs, with fires. So in the core, bump-free space, and on top of it, their main halls. It has the largest Rubens collection in the world, so it is very specific and very big. This is the length section, and you can see the paintings are hanging in the main hall, and underneath is the bump-free space. And they made this special so that in case of emergency, they could evacuate the paintings immediately. And they did it like this, with big edges at the end, under the walls of the exhibition space. Well, we had to expand and renovate this museum. There was only one problem. They didn't know where to go with the art. So we had to build a depot first. The bump-free space didn't have the specifications for a depot, so we had to make it first. This is the bump-free space. But what they did, they made a nuclear shelter within the bump-free space. It was in the Cold War period, and they were really afraid we could get a war, so they built this. It's a very solid bunker in the center of the building. And to get it down, we had to describe a method, and we have this brief. And in European law, you have to describe how you will tear it down, but you also have to give the contractors the opening to do it differently. So what did we describe? We described a paste that would swallow, so get larger, and just with that cracking the concrete walls. But the contractor thought, okay, we do it with dynamite. And so it was in all newspapers. Placing the dynamite in a building is not a big thing, unless you have above the dynamite your collection of paintings of the value of 3 million euros. They were standing there. And we could evacuate some, but the largest pieces that were exactly above the nuclear bunker couldn't go out of the building because they were simply too large. So they packed it in a big package, attached some wires so we could monitor it, and then so you see the place of the paintings, you see the place of the bunker. And then they went there with the dynamite. The thing was, they came with a big lineup of cars of the military to bring the dynamite. The press was there, the politicians were there, the mayor was there, everyone was really, really excited. And then we advocated to do first a trial before blowing up the whole building. And they did it with 3 pairs of candles of dynamite. And it went only boom, boom, boom. So nothing much. That didn't even affect the building at all. So they decided they couldn't get it down with dynamite. So it had to be teared down by hand. 3 months they worked at it to get it down. And here the depot is empty and ready and full of art, so we could continue the job. So, this setting up the tender, what seems to be a boring job, to write down what you want, is something that you should not underestimate. It's an expert job and part of the job of being an architect. Episode 6, the one about the line. This is the roof of the building, and it had to be redone, and in the roof is a big new exhibition hall. It had to be lighted with daylight, but daylight and art is something that you have to take care of. So we needed northern lights, and we made this kind of models to get the light in. The whole idea is the light comes in, and with triangles, it's, let's say, bounced until it becomes diffuse. It's a very difficult system. And we had to do it with an outside cupola on the roof and an inside cupola to bounce the light. So you get this kind of drawings and this kind of detailing. And you can understand that this is very difficult to make or to understand for others that had to make it. So we made really mock-ups. This is, let's say, the frame at the left side of the inside cupola, at the right side of the outside cupola. And endlessly we go there and debate how to do it, how to manufacture it. There were hundreds of those. And in the end, we had to place them with a 0-point connection in the museum building. And it went well, so you can do it if you know how. So, what is the lesson learned? A line is not just a line. It stands for something. It stands for material. It stands for you already participating on what will be in the future. Whether you know what is the building order, whether you know what is the material, whether you know what kind of conversation you have to have with the people that execute this. And the anticipation on that is a big, big part of your work. Episode 7, the one about fame. You know, we can do a lot. Actually, I did become an architect not because I like buildings so much, but because I'm easily bored. I like to do really a lot of things. And if you are an architect, you can do all that. But you can also do only one. So architecture is kind of a big basket full of different specific area. So you can write a book, you can do a lecture, you can make drawings, you can make a movie, you can make excursions, you can be on the building site, you can teach, you can... It's endless. Whatever you can imagine, you can do as an architect. So you can all do this, or you do a specific something. Well, this is a long time ago that I made a series of lectures with these eminent Greases of the Dutch architecture. These were people that were famous in the Netherlands, but not that much over the earth, in the whole world. And we made this series, and then I wrote a book about that, and there's one guy, Piet Oudolf, that was part of the series. At that time, he was not that famous, but he became enormously famous, as he is the designer that reactivated the High Line in New York and made kind of gardens like this in Zumthor's work. You know, it's not your aim, and it's not how that you know that people will be famous or that you have to do that. It can be part of it, but it is first the quality of the work that makes and brings the fame. So, you can do almost anything that you want. And that is what I would like you to remember of this. You can do anything, and people will always know better. They know who you are, but you have to make the decision what you can do and how you can do it. And that is the thing. You are the only one to decide what kind of architect you want to become. That's it for today.
Well, thank you very much, Dikkie. Are there any questions about what Dikkie just talked about?
Shall I close it down?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Kan ik praten? You ask, you can decide what kind of an architect you want to become. So, what kind of an architect did you decide to become?
Well, you know, that was the basic idea. I didn't decide. I just was. I was not patient enough to go in one direction only. So the moment that I discovered something and get the knowledge about that, I wanted to do something else. That's why me personally, became architect. So I was focused on many different parts and tried to combine them within my work. But the thing is that I like to work with a lot of people that are specialists in some different part because they're better than me. They know much more things than me. I have this overall knowledge and specific part I know because I work with it. But you know, if you are not afraid to collect people that are the best in their practice, you learn from them, you can work with them, and you can make really beautiful things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I answered that. It can also change. Don't be afraid. You can go for something and it will change during your life. That is, you have just not to be afraid and open up for it.
Anyone else with a question? No? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As architects, we have a lot of times of hard work and a lot of hours put into it. But something that is not always said enough, that it can also be a lot of fun. And what project did you have the most fun with in your career?
Well, there's something really strange happening in our business. Huh? We kind of have the idea we have to work, 20 hours a day, and then we have the best project. I somehow don't believe that. I would encourage you to go outside and really look at things. Look at nature, go to a festival, enjoy things, look at art, open your mind. And then take the fuel you got and place that into your project. So think first is something that is so important. We are trained to produce. And that's what you all do. And that's also what they do in my office. You know, produce. They say, hey guys, stop. We don't produce first. We just first start to think, start to get your knowledge. And it will help you, and it will also give you so much more fun. And you will get less frustrated because now you're producing all those hours. And do you really know Is it really accepted every hour that you put into it? I've got one story about that. We did once a competition, and one of my designers was designing a big of door entrance somewhere. And it was a beautiful door, and was so much effort was taken into that. And then we printed the facade, and it was a little black dot. So we had to get it out because it was worthless in the thing. And that's exactly what happens. So we work in BIM structures and whatever, and every detail is modeled and thought of. And do you really notice it when you present it? Have you got the time, even if you present it, to tell about that? No. So think in reverse. What is it that is the essence of what you want to present? What is it that makes the quality? Put there your effort, understand that. And remember, we are only humans. Also, we, the jury, we, the professors, we cannot get every detail of what you did, but we immediately grasp the concept of what you're doing and the quality of the work that we see, not the quality of the work that we don't see. Okay? And this is a difficult thing, because just starting to produce is easier.
Thank you. Any more questions?
In what way do you think your education shaped you as an architect? Are there any lessons you still bear with you today?
Wait, I'm sorry, you have to...
So, what way do you think? How do you think your education shaped you as an architect? Are there still some lessons you learned back then that inspired you to this day?
It's not you. It's a kind of... it's, you know, I cannot hear it because of the sound. So, what kind of education is it?
How do you think your education shaped you as an architect?
Oh, my education, yeah. I've got a weird education. I didn't go to university like you did, so I had a lot of different education. So I did a lot of craftsmanship and a lot of art and journalism, and in the end, of course, I went to the academy and also became an architect and had my architecture diploma. But what it shaped in my education, I had a part academic and a part craftsmanship. So I do understand the language of the people that make things. And I would encourage all of you to understand whether you have the old-fashioned craftsmanship or the new techniques, the new industry. Try to understand it, try to go there, try to speak with the people, try to imagine the order in which you have to do something. You know, it helped me so much, because if I design something, I know the line stands for something. It stands for material, it stands for a thickness. It's much thicker than paper architecture. And with that in mind, I can go to the people who produces something, and I can speak the language. And even if I'm totally wrong, he or she will recognize that I do understand this language. So you know, I have seen so many details of you, not specifically you, but people of the universities, that are perfect. And then I was looking, they are perfect detail, but how do you make that? It's impossible unless you have magic. So you need to understand the order. What is the first piece that you put down there? And how do you stack it on top of each other? How do you bring it? What's the weight? Can you even get it on this position? You know, these are the things the people that are building this are working with. And if you want to succeed, you have to participate on that. You have to understand that. And you don't have to know it all. But please, please, do understand. You do not know it all. So don't project everything you have in mind just on someone that has to make it know, and you don't know how. Try to imagine it. Go to a building site. get dirty.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? If there are no more questions, I would like to thank Dikkie for your lecture. I find it very interesting myself. And I would like to invite everyone here to our business fair this afternoon. We have 41 different companies, all different kinds of companies, from consultancy firms to architecture bureaus. We have some landscape, some urbanism, some building technology. So just come by to orient what you can or want to do after your studies. If you have any questions about which companies are here, where they are, or for a specific question where you should go, there's an information desk on the side of the orange stairs. There's a map there as well with all the different companies on them, and we will help you further. The business fair will start at 2, so yeah, I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.